Hey, with you Evening Story Channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it.
Nancy and Andrew were hardly the poorest couple in the settlement. She worked as a milkmaid on the farm. He was also a tractor driver there, hauling and making fodder. They had no children, though they had lived for more than 10 years. Neither Nancy nor Andrew went to doctors. They just relied on fate. All sorts of examinations are very expensive. They never had that kind of money. That's why the question wasn't even raised. Next door to them lived a wealthy family, the not young owner of the house, Molly, her grown daughter Betty, and her husband James, and their 20-year-old son Peter. This family was not well liked in the township. They were the owners of all local stores and food stalls, and for that reason, they arrogantly considered all the people around them a notch below them. "Yeah, we feed the whole village. You should be kissing our hands," they declared to their fellow villagers, and many of them nodded their heads obediently, recognizing the justice of their words. Betty, meeting Nancy in the neighborhood, spoke to her. "I wonder to you, Nancy, how do you live from paycheck to paycheck? I'm ashamed to see what you're wearing. Can't your husband buy you decent clothes?" "Well, that's not the point." Nancy waved away the arrogant neighbor. "If we have to, we'll buy our own clothes." "Oh, Nancy, I want to live now." "What are you, like 30 years old?" 26. You're so young. I'm in my 40s, and I don't understand you. It's really hard for us to understand each other. For me, money isn't the most important thing. I love my husband, he loves me. What else do you need to be happy? It's just stupid. You don't understand anything about life. Well, there's no use talking to you. I've gathered some scum in there. Come back tonight. You'll think you went to a boutique." Betty laughed. "Do you even know what a boutique is?" "I've heard of it." Nancy waved her hand and walked toward her house. "You go and get your things," Betty shouted after her. "There's something for your husband, too." Nancy didn't answer and didn't go to get her things. A month later, the whole village was abuzz with news. Early in the morning, Nancy found a basket in her house with a newborn baby girl in it. There was a note on the side of the basket saying, "This is your daughter. Raise her yourself." The distraught woman returned to the house and woke her husband. "How can you explain this to me?" Astonished Andrew only spread his hands. "Nancy, dear, I don't understand anything." Suddenly, he blushed terribly. "You don't think I cheated on you? If you want, let's raise the money for the test." Nancy looked intently at her husband and suddenly smiled at him. "You know, I believe you. Let's try to adopt this girl. It's not by chance that she was dropped off to us, is it? We'll ask the police. They'll help us gather all the necessary documents." Andrew laughed. "Yeah, and it would be good if next time we got a boy." Betty and Molly were laughing when they found out what had happened to the neighbors. "It's a good love affair, Andrew. You're not only going out, you're having kids on the side. And now you're raising them? Oh, I can't, but it's hilarious. Look at the poor bastards looking for love on the side." And some fool came along, but she realized it in time. "Well done. Let's go on. Let's breed poverty now." Nancy answered nothing to the barbs of her neighbor's language. And 6 months later, after long and tedious procedures, they managed to adopt a girl whom they named Daria. Time passed. The girl grew up, loved her parents very much, and got used to ignore the taunts of the neighbors, who, as soon as Daria began to understand something, told her that she was a foundling and her birth mother had abandoned her. "Mom, why are they so mean?" Daria asked Nancy, but she just stroked the girl's head and held them close. "Don't mind them, daughter. It's not like they're out of their minds. They're angry at people. God be with them. You know how much we love you, and you're ours. Remember, you hear that? Do you hear that, Mommy?" Daria answered, "Are you mine?" and hugged her mother back. By that time in the family, Betty had already grown up, and granddaughter Alice, who was left to them from Peter. He himself, in the second year after the wedding, broke down with his young wife in an accident, and Betty, having buried her son and daughter-in-law, took him to her. Character. Alice was in her grandmother as capricious and angry. Every year, her temper grew worse. She was rude to her housemates, disrespected the neighbors, and, of course, did not miss a chance to bully Daria. 10 years went by like that. One summer, Andrew went fishing, promising his wife to return for dinner. However, he did not keep his word. That day, the village boys decided to try out a new raft and swam to the middle of the lake. When badly tied logs, the combs came apart. Screaming with horror, the raft fell into the water, and the children began to drown. Andrew saw from afar that there was something wrong, shouted to the old man Fishy, Shogu nearby to urgently call for help, and he himself rushed to swim to save the children. Waving his arms wide, he hurried to swim to them and got to the two in time. Andrew pushed the logs, telling them to hold on to them, and the third boy was lifted almost from the bottom. Andrew miraculously managed to give them back his breath, and only then the child cried from fright. Andrew calmly took a breath. He saw the boat rushing to their rescue and kept the children afloat to the last. But at the very last moment, when someone's hands picked up the youngest boy, the strength left the man and he went underwater. The men shouted, some dived after him, trying to help. But the man's heavy, limp body was sinking to the bottom too fast. Jump in after him. The fisherman did his best to pull Andrew to the surface, but he was too weak and nearly drowned himself. Eventually, Andrew was pulled out of the water, but it was no longer possible to save him. Nancy knew nothing about it. She had prepared supper and now waited for her husband, looking out the window every minute. But an old Sam neighbor came up to the house, stopped hesitatingly at the gate. Nancy went out to him and smiled. Andrew, he's not here. He's gone fishing. He'll come to the house soon. He won't. Nancy, your Andrew drowned saving the children. Nancy gasped and fell senseless at the old man's feet. She remembered everything that happened afterwards very badly. Andrew was buried by the whole village as a hero. Many nice words were spoken. But did it make Nancy feel any better? She lost her only support in life, and now she had no idea how she was going to live her life. She and Andrew had been living poorly, and now poverty awaited them. But time stood still. Year after year passed, and the woman gradually got used to living with her daughter. She was very grateful to Daria for her help and support. The girl was really not afraid of work. Together with her mother, she was hired to weed other people's vegetable gardens, helped to wash floors in the local outpatient clinic and village council. Not capricious and did not ask not new outfits, inexpensive gadgets. Since childhood she, like Nancy, was used to being satisfied with little. That said, Daria was always cheerful. She laughed at adversity and promised her mother that she would grow rich and take her to the sea. You want to see the sea, don't you, Mom? I want to see the sea too. You will definitely see the sea, my daughter, and you will be happy. When Daria grew up, Nancy began to look for a good profession for her. But the girl just waved her hands. Oh, really, Mama? I'll never leave you. Have you been sick lately? No, I'm not going to any city. I don't even insist. Daughter, I'll ruin your whole life like this. You're so smart and kind. You need to study. Don't say anything to me, Mom. I'll be with you as long as you need me. After all, not everyone has to be literate and scholarly. Some need to be simple working people. Although, to be honest, I'd love to go to nursing school. I feel very sorry for poor people. I'd love to help them. My good girl, cried Nancy, hugging her clever daughter. I want you to be happy so much, and I love you so much. Daria loved her mother too, but not only her. For a long time in the heart of the girl lived a young, handsome Thomas, the son of the local pharmacist, recently returned from the army. Thomas was, as they say, the first guy in the village, easily drove girls crazy, but none of them gave preference until accidentally bumped into Daria on the street. Wow, Daria, how beautiful you look, and I don't recognize you. Thank you, Thomas. The girl lowered her eyes. I am very pleased to hear you say that. Let's meet tonight, you'll hear it, laughed the guy. Daria only shook her head. I'm sorry, I can't. My mom is sick. I can't leave her for long. Whether it was the girl's beauty or her inaccessibility conquered the guy's heart, and he began seriously courting Daria. She reciprocated him, confessed that she loved him, but except for kisses, she did not allow him anything. It drove Thomas crazy, but he didn't dare to insist either, knowing that Daria was different. Besides, he had Alice, Daria's roommate. She thankfully didn't build herself up to be unaffectionate and enjoyed spending time with Thomas. And on Daria and Nancy, one after another, new worries were falling, and in addition there was a catastrophic lack of money. One day their neighbor Betty knocked on their door. Listen, Nancy, I need a housekeeper to look after my mother. The old lady's gone to pieces and cleaned the house. I'll cook and I'll pay you a lot, but I can't promise you much. But you're still beggars. What do you care? I'll help you with groceries too. I'm always in arrears anyway. I'd rather give it to you. What are you looking at? The food's fine. It's just that the expiration day is coming up. Anyway, why are you turning your nose up at me instead of working in the yards? Wouldn't you rather work for me? Let your Daria come to me and be my maid, and you do the cooking. By the way, it's fashionable to be a maid. Sorry, Betty, we're poor, but we don't want to be fashionable. We're better off on our own. All right. It's my job to offer, but watch out. I'm not just offering you, I'm also offering others the chance to be happy. Betty left, and Nancy waved her hands. What are you going to do? They need maids, and what do you think of Daria? Let it be so. Let's agree on a place near the house. You can always come and rest, and I'm close by. I'll have time to do mine and help you. And those who will pay, and the late fees, well, to be honest, we buy it for money in their stores. What's the difference? For a long time, Nancy didn't let herself be persuaded. But then she agreed with her daughter's arguments, and the next day she started her new duties. Both Nancy and Daria found it hard to work, but they were used to hard labor and did not complain about the capricious and willful boss. Mood. Betty's mood was simply terrible. Husband Sergei, in his old age, found a young mistress and left home. During the divorce, Betty had to divide the property with him, and she was left with practically nothing, and therefore constantly snapped at everyone, got not only on the waist, but further on an elderly mother. Alice kept up with her grandmother, constantly pointing Daria in her place, deliberately throwing things around, could knock over a basket of garbage. She didn't keep her room in order. Daria kept quiet and just did her job. One day she went to the laundry room after gathering her laundry, and on the stairs she bumped into Thomas, who had just walked in on Alice. Thomas dropped the laundry from Daria's hands out of surprise. Why are you here? Why are you here? I was actually waiting for you last night and I came. Why? Yes, because she was scrubbing toilets in my house. Alice exclaimed, appearing out of nowhere. What are you doing hanging out with my maid? Aren't you ashamed? What? She's Vanya. And you immediately turned to Daria. You miserable little country bumpkin who's trying to steal my fiancé from me. I'll have you thrown out of here in no time. And pick up the laundry. What are you talking about? Anyway, Thomas, take your pick. You can go with her. Help her do my laundry or come with me till we die. Thomas stood there for a while and then went to get in. A few months went by. One day, an expensive car stopped outside Betty's house, and a man who was not old but still attractive got out. Betty got out to meet her guest. Alice caught up with her, and they both froze in amazement. As they listened intently to him, the man told a strange story that happened many years ago. Hello, my name is Jacob, and I am looking for my granddaughter. You see, my wife has been dead for 10 years, and 40 days ago my daughter passed away. Maria was always spoiled and wayward. She was married, but she never gave me any grandchildren. That's what I thought. And just before she died, she confessed to me that when she was young she had managed to get pregnant and give birth to a certain Peter. Maria was 17 years old at the time. She got scared and dropped the baby off with the father. So Maria told you that she also left a note telling me how to find you. And the note said it was your daughter. Raise her yourself. Nancy interrupted him, standing in the doorway. Your daughter wrote it's your daughter. Bring her up yourself. But she got the wrong address and dropped the baby off with us. We're Betty's neighbors and we raised the daughter. I still have the note and the basket. Let me show it to you. That Daria is my sister, Alice squeamishly exclaimed. No, answered Molly, who had come out to hear the noise. She's our real granddaughter, and you're not. Peter married your mother when she was already pregnant. They never got to have a child together. They died in that accident. Oh my God! Betty's head was spinning. So where's my granddaughter? Where's Daria? Jacob asked and exclaimed in surprise. There she is. Daria, you look just like my daughter. Hello, replied the girl, not understanding anything. And who are you? I am your grandfather Daria, your maternal grandfather. Nancy and Daria lived with Jacob in a big house, in an elite village of the regional center, and were happy. Daria was preparing to enter the institute, practicing with tutors, and Nancy took care of the household to improve her health. She liked Jacob very much, and he reciprocated. Finally, all three of them were happy.